Hello, everybody. I see we're at the top of the hour. All right, welcome to today's training, How to Build a Shift-Proof Operations with KW Maps Coach Nicole Zuber. Please note this meeting is being recorded and will be available within 24 hours on the Maps Fast Track YouTube channel. You may access the YouTube channel from your Zoom confirmation email, and we will share the link in the chat momentarily. Currently, everyone is on mute. We do value group participation, so we ask that if you have any questions, please type them into the chat box. Your questions will be addressed by your coach throughout your webinar. Following the meeting, if you have any questions about today's call or coaching programs, please email us at fasttrack@kw.com. That's all for me. Nicole, take it away.
Thank you so much, Madeline. Appreciate you. Hello, everyone, and welcome. I am Nicole Zuber, Executive Operations Coach here at MAPS Coaching, and I have the privilege of coaching some of the biggest, most profitable operation businesses, real estate businesses in the industry. I'll say it, the industry. It's a pleasure and a privilege to be here because I don't know about you. Let's talk about the participation real quick. How many of you have noticed a difference in your market today than what it was like 6 months ago? Let's use the chat box. If you have noticed a difference in your market today than what it was 6 years ago or 6 months ago, please type that in. Yes. Okay. And it's not a secret, right? The market is adjusted. And it's going to continue to adjust. And guess what? It always will. How about them apples? It's always going to adjust. So when you hear shift proof, just know the markets they go up and down, and it is what it is. We could make it for what it is, or we could sit and cry about it, or we can do something about it. And that's what I want to do here today, is empower you with some knowledge so that we could go back to our businesses and help them maneuver through, because markets are going to go up and down. It's just the cycle of the economy. You can't control it. So with that being said, let's pop in our slides, Ice, if we want to grab those. Let's start our presentation here. So one way, again, so how we're going to shift proof, let's go into the next slide. How we shift proof our operation. This is the number one way, y'all, called cross training. So if you have an operations team, that per the MREA, it consists of your listing manager, your transaction coordinator, and your director of operations. Now, you might be on this call, it might be all those things. That's totally fine. But you still need to be clear as to what those roles entail. So if you are an executive assistant that runs all of the show, well, you're probably still taking on listing management, or you're passing it off to somebody. It's still important. You should know what that is. Or a transaction coordinator, same with DOO. Let me talk about DOO for a second. Rule number one, you have to earn the right. You have to earn the right. Director of operations should completely understand the transaction coordinator role and the listing manager role, because per the model, that's who reports to those people. So if you're in that role and you don't know what it's like to take a file, well, how in the heck is somebody going to be able to report to you? Now, I'm not saying that you don't have to have it all mastered, but you still have to have an understanding of that role. So let's move on to the next slide. Cross training is magical because we cover for each other. So what are the benefits of it? It's a great ROI. It increases your workforce and stability. Think about that. People, if you do have a team and you do have multiple roles, if one person goes on vacation and the other can't cover, well, we're not in a team. I'm not saying you have to do it for the rest of your life, but you still got to cover for your team members, because chances are our agents need to be doing what they do best. Just out of curiosity, what are agents supposed to be doing? Just one thing. Let's use our chat box. Amen, Karen. Same thing. You guys are so smart. Making my job easy. Yes, yes. So how the heck can they go out and sell when they're having to maintain all of those things? We got to cover. So with that being said, I want to empower you to think about this a little bit differently. So employees we're better able to collaborate. What does that mean? Well, if you're not collaborating with your operations team members, then how are we growing? How are we improving the business? Let's talk about the listings right now. I know it's all over the board across the nation because I coach teams coast to coast, but is our listing system the same? Are we communicating with our sellers the exact same way today as we were a year ago? Feel free to use the chat box. Absolutely not. Exactly. No, we're now having to, like, we went from the average day on market of being 3 hours to now 30 days, 60 days, a little bit further, right? We now have to sell our value as to how much it costs the sellers to write a check for an experience. Think about that. They are the ones that are paying the commission, right? They don't give a credit who's on the buyer side and the buyer agent and what the splits are. They're writing the check typically for the experience. So now that properties are taking longer to sell, it's not 3 hours anymore. We have to resell them in our value. So we do that. So going back to the collaboration, we have to talk to each other. If you are, if your system is breaking and you have if a client ever has to pick up the phone and ask what is happening next, we have a system problem called communication as well. So going back to the benefits of cross-training, it increases efficiency. It increases motivation. Think about it. Nobody succeeds alone. And it makes the company more agile. What does that mean? Well, as administrators, as operation leaders, let's reframe that word. So in the operations team, you are in real estate, for crying out loud. You have to be agile. This is not like complete, fit in the box, black and white. There's so much agility that is required to succeed at a high level in this industry. So when you're collaborating and you're covering for each other and you're working together as a team, and our agents are out doing what they do best, lead generating and taking care of, our buyers and sellers, it allows us to have files and things to do on the back end and service the client at a high level. So let's go to the next slide, Ice. This is number 2. This is the second. If I had to boil everything down, it's cross-training, knowing what your role is to be shift-proof, and then managing finances. I can't be the only person on this webinar right now. There's 114 of us who has noticed an adjustment of the number of transactions that we're working on. The number of transactions that we're working on, it's adjusting. Well, with that, typically, so do your expenses. So there's this acronym called CRONC. Let's go into what that means. Managing your finances. This is, and again, before I go into this, I want to say, I don't care what level of experience or where you are in the role that you're in today. If you're in an administrative role and our rainmaker and isn't talking about the finances with their CPA or their bookkeeper, let's just say, or their coach and or their operations team, you're welcome to raise your hand. I want to empower you to raise your hand and, let them know, hey, I want to learn about this. I want to help with this business. So CRONC so it's remargining your business, which is tactic 3 of shift. And one principal thing that you could do is on the 15th of every month, you block off 2 or 3 hours and reevaluate the expenses from the previous month. That's one simple way. And what does that conversation sound like? Well, the first letter is K, and that's, what do we keep? What are the bones of the business that we can't afford to get rid of? Typically don't want to be cutting I hear Gary Keller say this all the time. You don't want to cut your feet off. So your lead generation, what is causing business to come in? Your coaching, who is the right hand that's helping you all through this? Those are things that you typically keep to make sure that you weather you charge the storm, not weather the storm, excuse me. You charge that storm that we're walking into. So what do we keep? Then we go through, what do we replace? There's the R. Is there anything in there that can deliver the same result at a better price? If you're going through your budget and thinking about this, you can do this in your personal life too, by the way. This is a great acronym to carry over to your personal life. What can we find at a better rate that can do the same thing? And in a shifted market, up markets conceal, down markets reveal. Think about that. So when income is coming in and flying and contracts are coming and we just constantly have closings, lots of times people are more worried about just getting the next one because we can barely keep up than they are to when there's some free time to start thinking about, I'm having to write a check every month. Is there a return on this? So that's what the R stands for. Now, O is the offset. Can someone help pay for this? Now, obviously, you want to always honor those RESPA guidelines, but think there are ways that you can partner with preferred vendors, lenders, and maybe for your client events, maybe for some of your lead generation levers, etc. What can we offset? What are we paying for today that we could actually partner with somebody to be part of this? When it comes to those preferred vendors, I want you to think about this. The lenders that we're passing business to, our preferred lenders, go back and count how many transactions we gave them last year and compare it to how many they gave you. You are their lead generation. Monica Reynolds, the great Monica Reynolds, she taught me that a long time ago. Our lenders, our home inspectors, those are people that you are their lead generation. You're feeding them, you're helping them your businesses are helping them put food on the table for their families. So with that being said, why are they helping us on the other side? It's win-win or no deal, right? The N is for negotiate. So you can go to, there's nothing wrong with going to some of the expenses that we have and calling and seeing if they can reduce their rate. If you're not experiencing this in the shifted market, I lived when there was a demographic cliff. I've been in the industry for almost 20 years, and oh my goodness, 2008, 9, for anybody that was in that world that's on this call, remember that? It was butterfly and roses, right? Had I had something like this in place, I wouldn't have lost everything. We lost everything before we came to Keller Williams in 2008 and 9. So I've been in the trenches there. This gal used to carry 30 short sale files at a time. Wasn't always butterfly and roses. So again, the markets go up and down, and instead of, I want to help you protect yourself from, I want to help you stay protected from all the mistakes that I made in the beginning when we first got in. So then the C is the cut. Things that there's no return. When you do an audit on your financials, you would be blown away with how many subscriptions that you may not even know that you're paying for that are on a reoccurring basis that you're not even using. Those are the types of things that we cut. I want to open this up. Any questions when it comes to Kronk and what we're explaining here? You could use a chat box or unmute yourself. And in the meantime, Kevin, hello, Kevin. He said, hit by a principal bus, if someone unexpectedly goes down, the team has the knowledge to pick up and move forward and roll so the client doesn't experience a lapse. Beautifully said. Yes, because the show must still go on. Kevin's point was back to the other slide of cross-training, 100%. And he's a good person to talk to. He has a really big operations team and leads those guys. They rock the reviews and the referrals. All right. So speaking of which, let's move on to the next shift-proof idea. What do you know? Reviews and referrals. And no, I did not pay Kevin to type that in when he did. So reviews and referrals, those are the lag measure. Think about this. They're the lag measure for delivering an extraordinary client experience. So no different than our agents. The leading indicators for our agents getting contracts is lead generation, lead follow-up. Those are all measures that cause contracts to come in. Reviews and referrals are for us on the operations side. They are the quantifiable metric that we could actually put numbers to and see how great is our client experience. Look at Kevin there, 110% reviews year to date. Oh, stop bragging. Just kidding, I'm really proud of y'all. So they measure our performance. So if you're sitting there like, oh my gosh, we don't get reviews. Well, number one, are you asking? And number two, if you are scared to ask, and I'm just going to shoot straight, I can't help myself. It's what I do for a living, right? If we are scared to ask for reviews and or referrals, we're not clear on the value that we provide. And your job from the operations side is to run that show, run that scale, deliver that experience. So with that, through the Perfect Operations team course, we teach you where to place the ask and what value to tie that to, how to go in for the ask when it comes to reviews, referrals, tied to your client experience, tied to your client events as well. And there are about 3 to 5 points that you can ask for that. And it is a proven system because it can be done. Hello, Luann. Amen. So Lee says, do you have a script asking for current clients through the process of new people in general? Okay, let me reread that. Do you have scripts asking current clients through the process and new people? Oh, absolutely we do. Absolutely we do. It's a proven model. And I'm so grateful that when I was asked by Monica Reynolds, gosh, about 4 years ago, to become the operations head coach and lead the operation coaches, that was one mission that I was really, it was so important to drive, was to make sure that on the operations side, we have metrics so we know whether we're winning or losing. Agents have them. How many contacts did you go on? How many appointments did you set? We have them on the operations side too. We just have to look at it differently. So Gloria's question, if Madeline or Ice could respond to that, that would be fantastic. And then let's move on to the next slide. Let's get you some more info on how to shift proof your operation. Anybody ever read that book, Shift? Please say yes. If you haven't, please do so. This is a different version of the copy. And had I had this book in 2008, 9, 10, before the demographic cliff happened, wouldn't have gone through the hardship that we did. This book is timeless. I don't care when it was written. Timeless. It talks about markets going up and down and how you don't tie a story to it being, oh my gosh, is it challenging? Yes, it is. And your mindset has to be right. You've got to know how to get into action. At the end of the day, there's still buyers and sellers, no matter what the interest rate is, that need to perform. They actually have to move. It's a little more essential now when the interest rates are going up. But we were thinking that was going to happen in 2020, right? Remember when the world shut down, March of 2020? Then what happened? Yeah, some of us, we weren't deemed essential across the country. And then all of a sudden, boom, it exploded. And then it turned into a market that none of us have ever lived through. So there you go. Let's talk about bulletproofing the transaction. So in a downshifted market, you have to be way more proactive than reactive. So things are going to happen, let's be real. With interest rates going up, it causes buyer reluctance. It causes sellers to say, oh, never mind. I'm going to get on a little soapbox here. that last market that we walked out of, it wasn't even an upward trajectory. It was like straight up and down. It was crazy and unsustainable, may I add. That particular market posed lots of opportunities and lots of, what did I say earlier? It concealed a lot of things. It covered up for a lot of things. Buyers, it's like all the buyers that were through the COVID times, it's like they all got together and they're like, I want to overpay. I want to overpay. I want to waive all my contingencies, and I want to, get the snot knocked out of me, writing at 15 offers at a time and lose half the time. Like they were all excited for it. And then what happens? The interest rates start going up and everybody's like freaked out. And so now that has pulled back a smidge. There's pockets. You might be on this call and be like, well, we're in multiple offer situations again. Yes, it is happening. And if we were to look at your exact market parallel from 365 days ago, I promise you that it might be a small pocket, but not all price points are doing the same thing. So being proactive, where can things go wrong? Well, with the uncertainty in the economy and what's happening with the banks and all that fun stuff, buyers they're getting scared. I'm not going to say they might, they are. I know that for a fact because we're dealing with that, especially through coaching. So the cost of who pays what and the timetable of the repairs, doubt about worthiness. So those are things that could go wrong. The solution to be proactive is it may not be a good idea for a seller to get a pre-inspection. You want to attend, whether you do attend with the buyers or sellers, that's debatable, but you just want the buyer and the seller in that second point is to know that you were there to support them. Might set negotiating limits. And then we prepare and reassure our buyers. Like I said, just let them know that we are there to support them. And it's okay to prepare them for what could go wrong so that it's not like the blind side. You don't want to paint a negative picture, be a doomsdayer by any means. Yeah, if there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, we're seeing this happen right now, and we just want to make you prepared. If this happens, this is what we do to respond. Called setting expectations and standards. Try it on for size. I promise it works. And then the people that don't want it, they don't like it. They might not want to hear the truth. All right, next slide. Appraisals. Now, you may or may not be dealing with this right now. I've not seen it as wonky as it was 6 months ago or a year ago when the appraisals situation was. I've seen it on the flip side too. So if it doesn't support the price, it won't support the loan, or if it doesn't match a CMA, if you're taking contract to close and you do actually negotiate for that in your role, well, there are solutions on how to go about this in a good way to keep the deal going. And if you're not, our agents, you should still be there to support them because they're going to have to deal with that conversation. So there are things you can do for solutions, providing the appraiser research, finding additional buyer funds, and or appealing the appraisal. So again, this is more about like, hey, this could go wrong, and this is how we respond otherwise. When people aren't blindsided, it's easier to continue to move forward. Let's go to the next slide. Loan approval and funding. I'm curious because I've been asking all my clients. Has anybody had buyers call the office in the last 24 hours saying, just kidding, I don't want to buy anymore. The interest rate's gone up. Great. Okay, Kate. So it happens. I'm like, that lots of people are still waiting. Yeah, okay. Thank you. Because That is what's happening. Their motivation is changing. Now, here's the thing, y'all. If we do not get with our buyers, and again, I'm talking to you, so giving you the thinking around this so that maybe we could go talk to our agents about this. Tell them you're in this really cool operations class and you learned how to handle buyers that have reluctance and that you wanted to teach them something. They'll appreciate that. So if buyers, if the interest rate goes up 1/4 of a point, it is what it is. It is like, we don't have control over that, right? But if our buyers don't know how that affects their buying power and what their payments could be, if that's important to them, which most buyers it is it the payment or the interest rate that's most important? We got to ask them that. So if they're not clear on that, then they are getting, and it really doesn't make much of a difference for them, and it doesn't affect their buying power, and they still need to really buy. They're letting the news and the media create stories for them that don't exist, and then they could be missing out on a huge opportunity. So when it comes to loan approval and funding, to my point with what I just said, we need to make sure we are partnered with a lender that knows what the heck they're doing and how to navigate through this. And they're ahead of you having to pick up the phone, or you having your buyer's agent or your agent have to say, hey, what's happening here? You need to be in business with really great, strong preferred vendors. So let's go to the next slide. This is the fastest 26 minutes of my life. Sorry, y'all. So the other thing is other contingencies. So we call it the domino effect. So if we cannot close on the property until another property sells, et cetera, we didn't see much of that in the previous market. We're seeing more of it now. And if you don't even know what I'm talking about, start looking into it, because it's going to come as the market continues to adjust. Third-party approvals, estate sales, relos, short sales, all of that is out of our control. It's up to whatever the estate, whatever is written in those contracts. So those are things that could go wrong. Clouded title. I trust if you're a transaction coordinator, we're looking at title reports ahead of time and have really great, if you are in a title state, by the way. And then solutions for that is you could tie it back to the offers, know how to communicate. I keep talking about upfront, say your stuff up front, get your buyers aware of as to what could possibly happen, not to be a doomsdayer, just to set them up for preparation. Knowing your timetables, and then if you're in a title state, having a preliminary title search, which I already said. All right, next slide. Co-op agent. Well, here's a sign to know that you're doing good. If you find yourself dealing with a cooperative agent and you're like helping them along the way, along with your agent along the way, you're doing your job really good. There are many agents who have come into this market or that past market that were riding the wave. In shift, we call it the law of equilibrium. And that's the number of agents that are in your board, if you will, that against the number of transactions that there are to share. I always say that number drops when dues are due. So typically that happens in December, and then you'll see MLS boards shrink. So the reason I'm bringing that up is there's a lot of people that weren't in it for a career that now that they haven't had closings for 6 or, I'm not even going to say weeks, maybe 4, 5, 6 months, that they got to go get a job. They got to go get a job and they got to change their career, or they have to go get another job because they weren't dedicated to real estate as a career. Maybe not intentionally, it's just the reality of what happens. So cooperative agents, they can pose problems. They might give bad advice or communication. They might not have any attention to detail because they might not know what to look for because they don't know what they don't know. And poor vendor selection. I cannot get on that soapbox enough for y'all. So some of the solutions are clarify the message and your intentions, own the process and communicate. So when I said earlier, if a client has to pick up the phone and say, hey, what's next? There's a problem, there's a system break. Same thing with a cooperative agent. Your system should be built out in a way that a client, a co-op agent, your agent never has to ask you what is happening next. Next slide. Deadlines, timelines. Time is of the essence, as most purchase and sale agreements say. And by the way, y'all, I'm not an attorney, a CPA, a financial planner, and always cross-reference do not call list. Jason Abrams would be so proud if he heard that. So deadlines, inspection repairs, contingencies. You as an operations member should never be the cause of a deal falling because we missed a pertinent deadline. So you want to make sure that confirm all appointments that are in progress, build in buyer flexibility by, I would say, by having those preset conversations. This is what the deadlines are. This is when you're going to hear from us by, et cetera, et cetera. And we'll teach you all that through our course. So managing the closing checklist. Part of the closing checklist is helping them set up their closing and then what to do after. If you don't have a what to do after closing checklist, we need to we need to adjust some things, because once a client closes their experience with us, we should have a system that allows us to stay in front of them. Next slide. Oh, I think that was it. There you go. So with that being said, I know that I have some questions. I see you want to go to the next slide. So who wants a free t-shirt? So alongside with MAPS coaching and running the Perfect Operations team, I also am the community leader for KW Operations. And we just launched at Family, we just went on stage at Family Reunion and went over what that is about. If you want a free t-shirt, go ahead and click that QR code right now. We're going to do a drawing after this call and we'll be in touch. So open that QR code, like and share our page, and you will enter into a drawing. And the back of that t-shirt, if you can't read it, it's one of my coined phrases. I pride myself on executing on plans, not ideas. How many of you have rainmakers that like just have all these ideas in the world and want to go execute it without having a written plan and scaled ideas? So that quote says, "It is unprofessional to run a business from inside of your head." And all of y'all should be putting, yes, I've experienced that before. I'm married to the ultimate rainmaker. So he is the ultimate visionary. And he always says, if you ever want to see my wife have a transformation, I just walk through the door and I say, hey, I have a great idea. Yeah. So, all right, guys, let's move on to the next. And thank you for your time. We're going a bit over. So our program details. So we launch on April 1st. If you want to know how to build a scaled, extraordinary client experience that's shift-proof, you are welcome to join us for the Perfect Operations Team Group Fast Track program. So we launch April 20th, and we spend 6 weeks in the transaction coordinator role, 6 weeks in the listing manager role, 6 weeks in DOO role. We go over the GPS, the KPIs, the 411, and also give you systems and processes, blueprints is what we like to call them, that you can go and audit or apply to your business. Who should attend? I mean, everybody, in my opinion. So anyhow, let's move on to the next slide. So you'll receive 18 one-hour calls. So do the math there, and you'll leave with enough content that could build a 400+ policy and procedure manual for your hub. Now, if you already have one, amazing. I challenge you to come in and audit yours alongside the way, because our market is adjusted. I just gave an example of our listing process that's changed. So with that, it's a $199 investment. It is a group coaching program with me and your fellow peers here in the room. And if you have any questions, you can always, as Madeline put it in the beginning of the chat box, maps@kw.com. We'd be happy to help. Next slide. So today, if you do sign up, there is a $100 off the first month. There you go. Next slide. And yes, it's available to everyone. Thank you, Sophia. You're amazing. Everyone say hi to Sophia, Ice, and Madeline. And if you haven't if you're near the PA area or haven't got it, don't know about this yet, Spring Masterminds is, gosh, a couple of weeks from today. And we have a keynote speaker, Val Fields and Brianna Wiest. Oh my gosh, Val, we were able to meet her last at family reunion. She is the #1 gymnast, and I hope I don't butcher the title, but she took UCLA gymnastics team basically from ground zero to collegiate champions. She's phenomenal. So thank you all for joining. If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to stay back and chat with you. You can use them in the chat box. You can use the chat box. Would love to come alongside you and coach you with this journey of making sure that you are creating a shift-proof experience for your clients and the team that you serve. My pleasure. Thank you, guys. All right, everyone stay safe and healthy out there. Hope to see y'all soon.